Total War Warhammer 3 Patch 2.3's arrived, and naturally, that means we've got some notes to go with it. How about that? We've got endgame scenarios in multiplayer, landmarks from Mortal Empires and Realm of Chaos becoming immortalized, balance changes across a sweep of factions, victory condition changes for different lords, AI and difficulty changes, and of course, the bugs are in our sight. With that out of the way, let's get into patch 2.3, yeah? So let's start with the looming, terrifying shadow on the horizon. Immortal Empire's endgames are now coming to multiplayer. Not only do you get to fear whether your friends are planning secret diplomatic pacts against you, you also get to fear the wrath of the Tomb Kings, or dwarfs and their grudges, or maybe man-sized rats that definitely don't exist. If you're feeling particularly dangerous, why not all of them in the Ultimate Crisis? The endgames feature the same level of customization as single player, and if you'd rather, you can also play with none of them at all. But now you get to suffer the world's most apocalyptic scenarios together, or separately, in multiplayer. Pulling the timeline back from the endgames of potential annihilation, we've brought landmarks and 10-slot settlements from both Mortal Empires and the Realm of Chaos into Immortal Empires, immortalizing them, if you will. Some of the 10-slot settlements include Carrick 8 Peaks and Sartosa, becoming their spacious selves once again. Whilst for landmarks we see the return of the Royal Illyrian Stables at Torrelia for the High Elves, and the ruined Oakham Stones at Conquata, just to name a few. Monogod factions are also getting landmarks near their starting locations, as well as new landmark locations for each god. Nurgle can get a landmark at the Bogs of Pigbarter, making them happy as a pig in, well, you know. Tzeentch will want the Golden Tower, which I bet the Lizardmen love to hear. Khorne get to dust up in Galbaraz, and Slaanesh will want to pester those high and mighty High Elves at Torrelia. And finally, to keep up with the ever-changing times, the original 8 Lords of Total War Warhammer have brand new Lord Select videos. You see, Grimgor wanted us to get his good side, which is all sides, friend. You zogging beautiful killing machine. In 2.2, we increased the damage taken by crumbling armies, and while this helped balance a tad, it didn't help enough. In 2.3, we've adjusted the leadership values across the Tomb Kings, the Vampire Counts, and the Vampire Coast, so this crumbling damage takes effect a bit sooner, whilst not being too overpowering. To put it into perspective, we've compared it to demonic instability. When demons break, they take a lot of damage, as they're forcibly banished back into the Chaos Realms. Crumbling, meanwhile, is a slow process. The damage is low by comparison as it's a slow death, but they still need to experience that death again if the battle isn't going in their favour. This would explain why Cetra doesn't kneel. Imagine if his kneecaps crumbled to dust. It's not very fun when you think about it. While we're talking about battles, we've got more AI changes coming to battle difficulty in 2.3. The big changes are coming to evading missiles big and small, and spells, and the target selection of ranged units. Regarding evasion, the higher the difficulty for battles, the more proactive the enemy will be in terms of avoiding ranged attacks. From simply rushing it and praying for the best on easier difficulties, to active evasion of spells, artillery, and light projectiles on harder difficulties. And regards target selection, on harder difficulties the enemy will target softer, less armoured targets first, and on easier difficulties they'll simply target whoever comes into range first. On the campaign map, the AI is now more likely to accept a peace treaty from the player when they're far away. If you've got vassals around the world, whenever you declare wars, they'll now join in the war effort with you. And the AI's selection of provinces to build outposts in has improved in certain areas. You can no longer use the underways, tunneling, or teleporting stance to bypass the Great Bastion. Those foundations do run deep after all. And lastly, over in the Empire, the Elector counts have had more fixes and have become more talkative, ensuring that Elector events now work. We've also fixed up some quest battles. The Sunfang quest for Tyrion had an issue with the enemy armies just not spawning, causing the battle to time out. They're now on the field and ready to fight. Drych's Coadil Unchained quest also had a few issues, namely with indestructible structures that, naturally, Drycha hates. We hated that too, so that's been fixed. Norska's monster hunts have also been fixed, meaning you can finally get down to hunting down some beasts and dedicating your victories to the god of your fancy, or just enjoying hunting a big old monster. And now, let's hit on some changes to victory conditions for certain armies. Starting in the frozen oblasts of Kislev, Katerin and Kastalton still aren't agreeing on much. But something both parties can agree on is the Festus issue. In that Festus is, well, he's right there, on the Kislevian border. As such, the removal of the Leech Lord himself has been added to both the Great Orthodoxies and the Ice Court's long victory conditions. As for Boris and his expedition, the war host of the Apocalypse is no longer a long victory objective, and is now exclusively a short victory goal, so he'd best get to culling the herd. In the vast Nehekaran deserts, Cetra's sights for short-term victory have changed. He's no longer interested in dealing with the High Queen Khalida, and instead cares about removing the Sigmarite dogma of Volkmar the Grim. Only one person in the vicinity can have the as a middle name, and we'll deal with Arkan and the others later. And with the big lads over in the Ogre Kingdoms, we've added 2 more settlements to their long victory, but these can now be held by vassals and allies. So now your boys can focus on what's best, like eating and fighting, as opposed to what they'd be doing in a city, which, well, I imagine it's still eating and fighting, but camping's more fun. So that's a quick look at some of the changes with patch 2.3 for Total War Warhammer 3. There's quite a few more changes, like more adjustments to Grand Cathay, the Skaven, and for my fellow Druchii friends, we're still tinkering with the slave mechanics. So if you've got any feedback, as always, we'd love to hear from you in the comments and our official channels. And speaking of what's coming next, we dropped a State of the Game post last month, and we heard your questions, and as such we'll be doing a new State of the Game before the holidays. So get out there, check out the changes, and as we said before, let us know how you feel about them in the comments. And for more intricate details on patch 2.3, don't forget to check out the blog post.